Hey guys, Dennis Takama here, and today I want to talk to you about why business is like a game, just like any other game. Just the stakes are way, way higher. So if you stop and think about it, if you ever played Monopoly, and most people that are watching this probably have, you'll realize there's a very specific set of rules, and there's different things you got to learn. You got to learn about where to place your properties, you've got to learn about rental prices, you've got to learn about mortgages, you've got to learn about a lot of stuff in the game. Now, if you play the game of Monopoly with somebody who's been playing for years, and you're using real money, not like the fake Monopoly play money, but you replace their money with actual real money, and they know the rules and you don't know the rules. The question is, how many games of Monopoly can you play before you go bankrupt and you just can't play anymore? Like actually physically bankrupt and you can't play anymore. The answer is generally not very many. Right? You don't have very many opportunities. Now here's the thing, when you're playing Monopoly for real money, your opponent, and you take the rules out of the game, your opponent isn't going to sit there and tell you the rules. Or your opponents aren't going to sit there and tell you the rules. They're just going to play the game, and they're going to play the game with the rules that they know how to play, and they're going to do things that you don't understand is going on. And eventually, you might just pick up enough of the rules that you actually start to play effectively, but by that time it's too late. Now, the nice thing about real life, unlike Monopoly, is that life, because it's so long, you get more second chances than in a game that takes about an hour to hour and a half to play. So what does this have to do with business? Quite frankly, everything. Everything. This has to do everything with business, because a lot of people go into business, first of all, because they've got an idea, they've got an opportunity, or they had no choice, right? And they walk into it going, you know what, I'm going to make this work. I'm just going to grit it out. I'm just going to stick it out. I'm just going to put in my hours, work 16, 20 hours a day, put in my time, do the social media posting. I'm just going to go at it, and eventually I'm going to make it. But you're entering the game without knowing any of the rules. You might know a couple of the rules. For example, sales is always important in every business, and positive cash flow is king, and I gotta hire people, and I've gotta delegate, and I've gotta make systems, and you understand the overview of the rules. But getting down to the nitty-gritty of how they work and how to actually apply them separates the businesses that get everything they want from the ones that don't. And the ones that get everything they want ain't teaching the stuff. Why? Because yes, the world's a big place. Yes, there's lots of pie for everybody, but why should I spend my time teaching people that don't want to learn the game when I'm so busy playing it myself? Which is exactly why Greg and I got into teaching the game, because so few people are actually teaching it properly. Now, it's amazing how many people who've never actually played the game, have never gotten punched in the face, have never been on the edge of bankruptcy, have never actually owned a business, had to hire somebody or fire somebody or deal with any of that kind of stuff, who go around saying, hey guys, I read some books, I'm going to teach you the rules of the game. The problem is most of these books talk about one specific aspect of the game. They'll talk about how to sell stuff. Mike Malekowitz's book, Profit First, is great. Just take aside 10% of everything you make and keep everything else for paying your bills. Great theory. How does it actually work? There's rules around how to make that work. When it comes to leadership, there's rules around leadership. Now, you just can't walk into there and be a business of one or a business of four and feel like leadership is going to change everything. There's rules you have to follow. There's structure you have to follow to make a business actually work and actually make sense. You have to know the difference between a markup and a margin. You have to know that if I mark something up by 34%, my margin's only 25%. If that doesn't make any sense to you, please, for the love of God, learn this stuff so you know how to play the game. You've got to know how variable expenses and fixed expenses are different and why it's so important for the growth of your company, so you know at what point you're going to hit maximum profit for the least amount of effort. You've got to know how to use proper margin spreads. You've got to know how to use proper vendor agreements. You've got to know how to use proper negotiation strategies, and you got to know how to use proper sales strategies. Like the sales authority architecture that I teach my clients is a completely different way of doing sales, but has a really high conversion rate because of the way it builds up the authority of that business in the client's mind without doing all the talking sales stuff. So if you're going to play the game and you want to win, you got to learn the rules. You've got to invest in the rules. And here's the funny thing to me. People will go to business school and they will spend $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 to get a business education that has no real world application at all. You have no idea how many people I've talked to who've got a degree in business somewhere, and yet they can't make the business work because all the business education stuff was done at a high level by people who've never actually played the game, and they've never actually escaped past theory. So find somebody, find anybody, Greg and I always work with a handful of people every single year to ensure that they understand the rules of the game. And here's the funny thing. When you understand even the most basic of the rules and how to apply them, everything changes. It doesn't make it easier, but it makes it a whole lot simpler to understand why you're doing what you're doing and how it's impacting your profit and loss statement and how your numbers are making sense. And suddenly, oh, hey, wait a minute. The way I used to talk and the way I used to think was completely backwards and wrong. And now that I'm looking at this from a different perspective, everything's starting to make sense. And here's the worst part. A lot of people buy franchises assuming the franchisor knows the rules and is going to explain it. Most franchisors don't know what the hell they're doing. Very few exceptions to that rule. McDonald's is a great exception to that rule, but they are the very few exception to the rule. Most franchisors are selling franchises to franchisees because they get the initial lump sum money up front. They can then sell off master license agreements, make 20% of a territory. Then they can make 5 to 7% of every single sale that goes through a business without ever actually having to teach that business how to be successful. And by the way, if your franchisor is charging you 7 to 10% of a franchise fee, including marketing, royalties, and everything else, keep in mind the average business makes less than 5% net profit a year. So they're asking you for 7 to 10%, providing you almost none of the rules in return to allow you to succeed, to teach you how to do this stuff. They're just going, hey, make some sandwiches, or hey, pull some dents, or whatever, or go change some oil, without ever actually explaining to you the rules. So get somebody who knows the rules. Get them to teach you this stuff. Invest in yourself. I think Greg and I are one of the only few organizations in the world that offers a 30-day money-back guarantee after you've had a chance to test drive our program. I'm one of the only ones, and I think Greg does this too, or if you can't get a 3 times your ROI in the first 12 months by doing what we tell you to do, I'll give you your money back. It's like a no-risk, no-brainer investment. So invest in yourself. Learn the rules. Learn how the game is played. Make better choices, and for the love of God, get successful. 80% will fail. That's not some bullshit stat. It's out there. And if you think it's not true, drive through your frickin' neighborhood, look at all the businesses that are up right now, and think to yourself, how many of these have been brand new within the last 5 years? And you will be shocked at how many have turned over. And that's not including the trades guys who run their stuff out of their houses, who flip over probably just as common or just as often as everybody else. Learn the rules. Understand the game. Do yourself a favor. Until next time.